He's been staring at you the whole night, but you're not sure what it means. Maybe you've been here before. You're in a conversation with a guy, something feels charged, electric even. But then you second-guess yourself. You think, maybe I'm reading too much into this. Maybe he's just being friendly. And so you do nothing. You pull back. And then, a week later, you find out he was absolutely crazy about you, and you missed it entirely. Here's what nobody tells you. Obsession doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with a speech or a grand gesture, at least not at first. It shows up in micro behaviors, in the tiny things men do when they can't stop thinking about someone. And most of these signals are so subtle, so unconscious, that even the men doing them don't realize they're doing it. That's what today's video is about. I'm going to show you 6 specific behaviors that tell you, without any doubt, that a man is completely fixated on you. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to look for and what to do with it. Welcome back to Lena, where we talk about the things most people think but never say out loud. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe. New videos every week, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming. All right, let's get into it. Here's the problem most of us have grown up with. We've been taught to wait for the obvious signals. Wait for him to say it. Wait for the big romantic move. Wait until it's undeniable. But that's not actually how human attraction works, especially for men. Research in behavioral psychology shows that when a man develops a deep emotional fixation on someone, his behavior changes long before his words do. His nervous system is responding. His body language shifts. The way he orients toward you in a room, the way he listens, the way he mirrors you, these aren't conscious choices. They're neurological responses driven by elevated dopamine and a spike in norepinephrine, which is the same chemical your brain releases when you're hyper-focused on something you really, really want. In other words, his body is telling the truth, even when his mouth is playing it cool. And the women who understand this, they have an enormous advantage. Not because they're manipulating anyone, but because they're reading the room accurately. They're not missing signals that were right in front of them the whole time. They're not walking away from someone who was genuinely falling for them because they mistook caution for disinterest. This is about clarity, real, grounded clarity. So let's break this down, starting with number 1. You lean forward slightly and rest your chin on your hand. A few seconds later, he does the same. You cross your legs, and you notice he shifts his posture too. You think, coincidence. It's not. This is called mirroring, and it's one of the most well-documented signals in social neuroscience. Studies show that mirroring, unconsciously copying the posture, gestures, and movements of another person, is something our brains do automatically when we feel a strong sense of connection and attraction. It's driven by what researchers call mirror neurons, a system in the brain that fires both when we perform an action and when we observe someone we're drawn to performing that same action. The key word is unconscious. He isn't doing this on purpose. His nervous system is essentially saying, I want to be in sync with her. When you notice this happening, it's a reliable signal, not a maybe. The more consistently he mirrors you, the deeper the connection he feels. You can even test it gently. Change your position or gesture naturally and see if he follows within 20 to 30 seconds. If he does, without any prompting, that's not accidental. That's his brain telling you something his words haven't gotten to yet. And here's what's even more telling. If he's mirroring and maintaining sustained eye contact at the same time, you've got a double signal. Which brings us perfectly to the next one. But number 2 is the one most women completely overlook because it feels almost too small to matter. It isn't. You're mid-sentence, talking about something completely ordinary, your weekend, your job, something you saw online, and you notice he's just looking at you. Not in a creepy way, in a focused way, like you're the most interesting thing in the room. The conversation ends, there's a pause, and he still hasn't looked away. Extended eye contact triggers oxytocin release in the brain, the same bonding neurochemical associated with deep trust and attachment. A Harvard study famously showed that strangers who maintained mutual eye contact for a specific duration began to report feelings of affection for each other. It's why lovers gaze at each other, and why someone who avoids your eyes can feel emotionally unavailable. When a man holds your gaze longer than the situation requires, his brain is essentially trying to bond with you. He's not doing it to unsettle you. He's doing it because he can't look away. Normal social eye contact lasts about 3 to 5 seconds. If he's consistently giving you 7, 8, 10 seconds with a soft quality to his gaze, not an intense stare that's different. That's intentional, even when it's not conscious. And if you notice his pupils are slightly dilated while he looks at you, that's a physiological response to attraction that literally cannot be faked. Pupil dilation is involuntary. Now here's where it gets really interesting, because the next sign has nothing to do with his eyes at all. It has to do with how he uses his voice. And number 3, it's something women tell me all the time they noticed, but brushed off as him just being nice. It was never just being nice. You've been around him in a group setting. You've heard how he talks to his friends, his coworkers, maybe the waitress. And then he turns to you and something shifts. His pace slows down slightly. His voice drops a register. He's more careful with his words, more present. Studies in vocal behavior show that men unconsciously lower their pitch when speaking to someone they're attracted to. This is rooted in evolutionary biology. A deeper tone signals security, calm, and focus. It's the vocal equivalent of leaning in. Meanwhile, the pace slows because his brain is allocating more cognitive resources to this conversation. He's paying more attention. Researchers at Albright College found that both men and women alter their voice when speaking to someone they're romantically interested in. And for men, the change tends to be pitch lowering and pace softening. Pay attention to contrast. The signal isn't just that he has a nice voice. The signal is that his voice is noticeably different around you compared to everyone else. If he's loud and rapid with his friends and then becomes quieter and more measured with you, that contrast is the data. It means you're activating something in him that other people don't. And this leads us directly to something that has nothing to do with the conversation itself. It's about what happens when the conversation should have ended. What I'm about to share next is the sign that, once you know it, you'll never be able to unsee it. The conversation should have ended 5 minutes ago. He got the information he came for. The task is done. But he's still there, lingering, finding new questions to ask, bringing up a new topic just as you are about to walk away. You think, is he just talkative? No. Proximity seeking is one of the oldest indicators of attachment in psychology. John Bowlby's foundational work on attachment theory establishes that humans instinctively reduce physical distance to those they feel emotionally drawn to. For adults, this translates into manufactured proximity. We create reasons to be near the person we're fixated on. We extend conversations. We show up in the same spaces. And this isn't strategic for most men. It's compulsive. He's not running a play. He just doesn't want to leave. Watch for the pattern over time, not just in one moment. Does he consistently end up near you in group settings? Does he find reasons to continue the interaction past its natural endpoint? Does he text after a conversation with a follow-up thought that didn't really need to be sent? That's not overthinking on his part. That's him not being able to let the connection go. And here's something worth sitting with. The men who are genuinely obsessed are rarely the ones making dramatic declarations early on. They're the ones who just keep showing up, quietly, consistently. But number 5 is where most women make a crucial mistake. They see this sign and misread it as something completely different. 3 weeks ago, you mentioned offhand that you love a specific type of coffee, or that you have a complicated relationship with your sister, or that you've always wanted to visit Portugal. You barely remembered saying it. He brings it up today. Exactly. Memory encoding is directly tied to emotional salience. How much we care about something determines how well we remember it. When someone is fixated on another person, the brain treats every piece of information about them as high-priority data. It tags it with emotional significance and stores it more deeply. This is why you can forget a conversation you had with a casual acquaintance, but remember in perfect detail something said by someone you were in love with. His brain has essentially labeled everything about you as important, and important things get remembered. This one is particularly meaningful because you can't fake sustained, specific memory. You can fake one compliment. You can't fake 6 weeks of attentive listening. If he consistently references details of your life, your opinions, your throwaway comments, he's been paying attention at a level that isn't casual. That level of attention requires investment, and investment comes from caring. The mistake women make here is thinking he's just a naturally good listener. Test it. Notice whether he remembers these kinds of details about other people too, or just you. If it's just you already know the answer. And now we get to the final sign, which is the most emotionally charged one on this entire list. This is the one that matters most. He's confident everywhere else. He handles his professional life, his friendships, pressure situations, no problem. But around you, there's a subtle awkwardness. He laughs a beat too quickly. He fixes his hair without realizing it. He starts a sentence and trails off. You wonder, is he nervous? Yes, and that's a very good sign. When a man is attracted to someone at a deep level, his cortisol levels, the stress hormone, actually rise in their presence. Not because he's afraid of her, but because she matters. The stakes feel higher. He wants to impress her. He's acutely aware of how he's coming across. This is sometimes called activation anxiety, and it only exists in the presence of someone we genuinely care about impressing. You don't get nervous around people who don't matter to you. Full stop. The key is to look for this in contrast to his baseline. If he's naturally anxious with everyone, this signal is less specific. But if he's socially comfortable and fluid in most situations, and then around you he becomes slightly self-conscious, slightly less polished, slightly more careful, that contrast is everything. He's recalibrating. You've disrupted his equilibrium. And the only reason someone disrupts your equilibrium is because they mean something to you. This nervousness, by the way, is one of the most endearing things a man can show. It means you're not just attractive to him in a surface way, you're affecting him at a level that's harder to control. If you've ever sat with that feeling that something was there but you weren't sure enough to trust it, I want you to know that uncertainty doesn't mean you were wrong. It often means you were right and you just didn't have the language for what you were sensing. We're taught, especially as women, to doubt our instincts in romantic contexts, to not seem presumptuous, to not misread the situation. And so we override our own perception repeatedly in favor of playing it safe. And sometimes that means we walk away from people who were falling for us because we needed a sign that was impossible to misread. Here's the truth. These signals, the mirroring, the gaze, the voice, the proximity, the memory, the nervousness, they're not one-time events. They're patterns, and patterns are reliable. You're not imagining something because it happened once, but when it's happening consistently, across multiple contexts, over time, that's data. And you're allowed to trust data. You don't have to play dumb to protect yourself. You don't have to act like you don't notice. Noticing is not the same as being desperate. Awareness is not the same as neediness. And knowing your worth means trusting that when someone shows you these signs, it's not an accident. You're someone worth being obsessed with. Don't let self-doubt talk you out of that. I want to ask you something. Drop it in the comments below because I genuinely read them. Which one of these 6 signs have you noticed in someone and, at the time, talked yourself out of believing? I have a feeling a lot of you are going to recognize at least 2 or 3 of these. If this resonated with you, subscribe to Lena. I post every week, and everything we cover here is designed to give you real clarity, real confidence, and 0 guesswork. And if you want to go even deeper, watch this next. It covers what to do once you know he's interested. And most women get this part completely wrong. Take care of yourself. I'll see you in the next one.